Hello all, welcome to DevOps Real-Time Project. My name is Kastro Kiran. In the last video, we have seen how to deploy a Python-based application by using a Docker Compose, and also I have given a challenge to deploy the same application in the EKS cluster as well. So the response to this video has been very much instrumental, and this particular video will be focusing on deploying a different type of project. So let me explain you what are the details of the project. This project is something which is based on Java programming language. And in this project, we are going to deploy an e-commerce based application where we are going to see the front-end component and the back-end component of the application. As a part of deploying this particular application, we are going to use different tools in this particular project. Primarily, we are going to use the AWS cloud. Apart from AWS cloud, the other things that are related to the DevOps practices that we are going to use are, firstly, we are going to store the code in the GitHub repository. The link to this particular project is available in the description of this video. You can find the GitHub link in the description of this video. And along with GitHub, we are also going to use Jenkins, where we are going to create the CI/CD pipeline in order to do the automation of build and deployment process. By using Jenkins, we are going to integrate different tools such as Maven. Since this is a Java-based project, all the Java-based projects has to be compiled and packaged. Now, in order to compile and package, we need to use a build tool, and that build tool that I'm going to use in this video is Maven. Once we build the project, we are going to get the jar files or the war files of the application. These jar or war files of the application will be stored in a separate repository artifact tool, which is called as Nexus. Apart from Nexus, we can also use JFrog, but in this video, I'll be focusing on how to store the artifacts inside the Nexus repository. And once we store the artifacts in the Nexus repository, then we are going to perform the code quality analysis by using SonarQube as a tool. Alongside SonarQube, I am also going to use Trivy, which is a file system scanning tool for further development and for the security purposes of the project. Once we do this one, then we are going to create the Docker image, and then we are going to build the Docker image. And finally, we are going to push the Docker image to the Docker Hub. And then we are going to deploy the application into the Docker container. Once we deploy the application into the Docker container, we are going to get an email notification as well. Once we get the email notification, then we are ready to see the application which is deployed inside the Docker container. But this is not the end of the project. Here, I am going to show you the deployment of the application in the Docker container. Alongside the deployment of application in the Docker container, I'm also going to show you how to deploy the same application in the EKS cluster. That is typically the Kubernetes cluster, which is available in the AWS cloud, that is EKS service, Elastic Kubernetes service. Once we deploy the application in the EKS cluster, we are going to access the application by using the load balancer URL. And finally, we are going to monitor the application by using the monitoring tools such as Prometheus and Grafana. These are the different tools that I am going to use as a part of this particular project. I hope you will be finding this particular video very much helpful. And this is purely a real-time project where I am going to show you how to integrate multiple tools with Jenkins alongside the deployment of application in the Kubernetes cluster and also the monitoring part of the application. Let me show you the GitHub repository where the entire source code of the application and also the YAML files are available. This is the GitHub repository where the application code and also the YAML files, along with that, the entire documentation of this project along with commands is included. So this is the GitHub repository. So I want you to fork this particular repository. So whenever I do any kinds of updates in the future, so that you can be able to sync the repository so that all the updates will also be coming to you. So kindly fork this repository, and if possible, you can also star the repository as well. Right. So let me explain you what are the things that are available in this repository. So here the source code of the application is available, which is written by using the Java programming language. And remember, this particular project code is not written by me and it is not developed by me. It was forked from somewhere else and I have modified it according to the requirements of DevOps implementation process. Right. Along with that, you can also see a Docker file is available and the complete documentation of this application deployment is also uploaded here. So you can find the complete documentation along with commands. Everything is included here. However, I'll be following the same documentation while explaining this project also, so that it will be clear for you when you are practicing as well. Right. Along with this, there are a couple of YML files that are available. But here what I have done is, in order to do the deployment of the application in the Kubernetes cluster, we will generally use the deployment.yml file and service.yml file. But here what I have done is I have clubbed both deployment and service as a single YML file. So you can see deployment service.yml file, where this particular file consists of Kubernetes deployment of the application. I will explain you this particular YML file in some time once we proceed to the Kubernetes deployment stage. So this is the entire deployment of the application code and also its related files. Right. Let me show you also the documentation which I am going to follow. And this is the same documentation which I have uploaded in the GitHub repository as well. As I said earlier, the link to this GitHub repository is available in the description of this video. Right. So here, what I'll be going to do is I'll be explaining you this documentation. Parallelly, I'll be doing the things in the AWS console and also in the EC2 instances. So here, what I'm going to do is we are going to launch 3 different instances. One instance is for Jenkins and another 2 instances are for, one is for Nexus and another one is for SonarQube. So 3 different instances we are going to use. Otherwise, if you want, you can launch everything in the same EC2 instance itself. But that is not something that is practiced in the real-time scenarios. So that's the reason why I am going to create Jenkins server separately and Nexus server separately and also SonarQube server separately. And for Jenkins server, I am going to use Ubuntu 24.04 as the AMI and instance type as T2.large instance. Remember, this particular instance type will be giving you additional charges because this is not a free tier eligible instance. But again, this won't cost you much, but for practice case scenarios, it is recommended to go with T2.large instances because we are going to install multiple things in the Jenkins server. Right. I'm going to use 20 GB as the EBS volume capacity for the instance. So once after you launch the instance, make sure to open all of these port numbers. So I have given a detailed description of the importance of each particular port number also here. So you can read this documentation when you are practicing as well. Right. Once this is done, then I am going to launch 2 more instances. But these 2 instances are something which are going to come up with T2.medium as the instance type. The EC2 instance I am going to use is Ubuntu, which is 24.04 version. But here, the instance type that I am going to use is T2.medium. The reason why I am going with T2.medium is here, Nexus will have a separate server and SonarQube will have a separate server. Since Nexus and SonarQube, we are not going to work it on a large scale, it is good to go with T2.medium instances instead of T2.large instances. But again, it is not recommended to go with T2.micro instances for Nexus and SonarQube servers because T2.micro instance will not be sufficient to handle the load capacity. So that's the reason why I'm going with T2.medium for Nexus and SonarQube server and T2.large for Jenkins server. Right. So whatever the port numbers or whatever the security group that I'm going to attach it for the Jenkins server, the same security group I am going to attach for the Nexus and SonarQube server as well. So here what I have done is I have already launched the instances and I have installed Jenkins, Nexus and SonarQube in the instances as well. So let me show you those things also. So here you can see in the AWS console, I have launched 3 different instances. One is called as Jenkins server, which is T2.large capacity. And another one is Nexus server, which is T2.medium. And another one is SonarQube server, which is again T2.medium instances. Now, if you see for all these servers, I have given same key pair. I have selected the same key pair while launching all of these servers. If you want, you can also create different key pairs for each server as well. And also for all these 3 servers, I am going to use the same security group as well. So if you want for confirmation, let me show you that confirmation as well. So I'm going to select the Jenkins server. If you go to security, under security groups, you can see I have connected launch wizard -1 as the security group. This will be the same security group which I have attached for the Nexus server as well. So I'm selecting the Nexus server, go to security, and you can see the same security group which is attached to the Jenkins server. That is the same security group which I have attached to the Nexus server as well. Similarly, I have attached the same security group for the SonarQube server as well. So you can see launch wizard -1. So for all these 3 servers, I have attached the same security group. If you want, you can attach different security groups for each server as well. That's not an issue also. Now, for this security group, what port numbers I have opened is, as I said earlier, these are all the port numbers which I have opened for all these 3 instances. So let me show you those port numbers also. So here you can see for the launch wizard -1, this is the security group name. And in the inbound rules, total 8 inbound rules were added. And you can see the details of all the 8 different inbound rules also. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this one. However, I have provided the same details here as well. So you can open port number 22, protocol is TCP, service is SSH. This purpose is just meant for your understanding, not to keep anywhere else when you are launching the instance. Okay, you can see all the port numbers that I have opened here, right? So now, once after doing this, I have also connected to all of these instances, that is Jenkins server, Nexus server, and the SonarQube server. Let me show you those also. So I am going to use MobileXtrum in order to connect to this EC2 instances. So the first one is basically your Jenkins server. You can see on the top, I have renamed the tabs as Jenkins. So this is typically the Jenkins server, where Jenkins we are going to set up, and also the EKS cluster we are going to set up. Along with this, you can also see the Nexus server as well, where Nexus is going to run here. And along with that, you can also see the SonarQube server, where SonarQube is running here. But here, what you have to do as the first step is, once after you connect to the EC2 instances, first thing that you have to do is switch to the root user. So in order to switch to the root user, the command is sudo su. So now once you do sudo su, you can see that you are the root user. Once after you do this, it's good to update the existing packages. So sudo apt update -y. So these are the basic things that you have to do once you connect to an EC2 instance. So let me do the same thing for Nexus server also. So let me switch to the root user. And if you see who am I, you can see the root user. And let me update it by using sudo apt update -y. So that's the same process which I will be doing it in the SonarQube server as well. So sudo su, who am I? I'm the root user, and let us update it. Sudo apt update -y. So all these 3 servers are updated now, right? So in the Jenkins server, I have already installed Jenkins. So let me show you whether Jenkins is running or not. So first, let us verify which version of Jenkins is installed. So you can see Jenkins version, which I have installed is 2.492.3. And if you want to verify whether Jenkins is running or not, sudo apt or sudo systemctl, let us go with this one, sudo systemctl status Jenkins. So you can see Jenkins is active and running. So to come out of this, press Q in your keyboard. Q represents quit. So press Q in your keyboard. So with this, we are able to see whether Jenkins is currently running or not. Now, if you have a question, how I have installed Jenkins here, what I have done is I have created one shell file. So that is jenkins.sh file. Now, inside the jenkins.sh file, I have kept all the commands which are required to install and set up Jenkins. So in order to install Jenkins, we need Java software. So I am installing Java 17 version here, and then I have installed Jenkins here. That is how Jenkins is installed. And you know, Jenkins is something which runs on default port number, which is 8080. So just copy the public IP address of the server and then go to a new tab. And in the new tab, paste the public IP address of the server, :8080, and then you can access the Jenkins. So set up the Jenkins. So I hope you are aware. If you have been watching my previous videos, you must be knowing how to set up the Jenkins as well. Right. So in this video, I'm not going to show all of these details, how to set up Jenkins, Nexus, and SonarQube, because I have been discussing these things lately in previous videos as well. So if you want a previous, if you want to have the reference, you can watch any of my previous videos where I have set up Jenkins in the EC2 instance. Right. Once Jenkins is done, then I have also installed inside this Jenkins server, I have also installed Docker and I have also installed Trivy. So if you ask me why I have installed Docker is because once we build the Docker image, that Docker image we have to push to Docker Hub. So in order to have a connection between the EC2 instance and the Docker Hub, we need Docker to be installed in the EC2 instance. So if you want, you can verify whether Docker is installed or not. Docker space -- version. And this is the Docker version which I have installed. Along with this, I am also installing Trivy as well, which is a file system scanning tool. So Trivy space -- version. So here, you don't have to bother about all the commands. The entire commands in detail, I have provided in the documentation. So if you go scroll down here, you can see step 2. Let us set up Jenkins, Nexus, SonarQube in the respective servers. So first you have to connect to the Jenkins server and then create one shell file. Inside the shell file, paste all of these commands and then execute the shell file and access the Jenkins so that you will be able to set up the Jenkins as well. Right. And then in the same server, that is in the Jenkins server, I have installed Docker by using a shell file, vi docker.sh I have created. And inside that, I have pasted all of these commands which are required to install Docker or set up Docker. Once that is done, then I have also installed Trivy on the Jenkins server as well. Same thing. So I have created a shell file with the name trivy.sh. Inside trivy.sh, I have kept all of these commands and then I have executed the shell file so that Trivy is also up and running. Right. These are all the things which I have done in the Jenkins. Right. Now, next coming to SonarQube. In the SonarQube, what I have done is I have installed SonarQube. But here, if you ask me how I have installed SonarQube, by using Docker, I have installed SonarQube. If you do ls, you can see docker.sh file. So by using Docker also, we can install SonarQube. So first I have installed Docker in this EC2 instance. And then once after we install Docker, by using a command which is related to the SonarQube, that is related to the Docker container, I have installed Docker. So if you want, you can also verify Docker images and you can see SonarQube image is available. And if you do Docker ps, you can also see Docker SonarQube container is also running. So by default, SonarQube will run on port number 9000. So that is the same thing which I have given it here as well. So you can see SonarQube is also up and running here. Okay, SonarQube is also up and running here. Right. Once that is done, in the next case, I have installed Nexus also. So in the Nexus server, what I have done is first I have installed Docker. Why I have installed Docker is I have set up the Nexus by using Docker container. So for that, first we need a Docker. So I have installed a Docker in the Nexus container. And if you do Docker images, you can see Nexus image is available. And also, if you do Docker ps, you can see Nexus container is also available. By default, Nexus is going to run on port number 8081. So that is the same way how I'm accessing the Nexus as well. So you can see this is the SonarQube Nexus dashboard as well. So with this, I have set up Jenkins, SonarQube, and Nexus as well. As I said, you don't have to bother about the commands. I have clearly given the commands in which server you have to execute the commands, what is the step-by-step process, everything I have given clearly. So you can just follow this documentation. If you want further clarification, you can also comment in the comment box of this video. I will be able to reply back to you if you are facing any issues. Otherwise, you can also refer my previous videos where I have showed how to set up Nexus, SonarQube, and Jenkins by using the EC2 instances. Right. Once all these things are done, then we are going to access Jenkins. Okay, then we are going to access the Jenkins. Right. So in the Jenkins, what we are going to do is let us install the default plugins. Now, if you ask me why these plugins are helpful, because these plugins are something which are going to help us in order to integrate one tool with another tool, right? So let's go with the Jenkins here. So in the Jenkins, we are going to install default plugins. So we have already installed the default plugins when we are set up in the Jenkins, but we need to install some custom plugins. So in order to install the custom plugins, go to Jenkins dashboard, and here you can see Manage Jenkins. So click on Manage Jenkins. In the Manage Jenkins, if you scroll down, you will see an option called plugins. And that is the place where we are going to install all the plugins. You can see under system configuration, you can see there is an option called plugins. So click on plugins option here. Once you click on plugins, we need to install some plugins. And these plugins are something which are helpful to integrate one tool with another tool. So that is the reason why I am installing plugins here, right? So in the left pane, you can see available plugins. So click on available plugins. So let us install the different plugins that are required. So the first one that I'm going to install is Pipeline Stage View. So this plugin is something which is going to help us to see the stage-wise execution when we are building the pipeline. Okay, when we are building the pipeline, we will see stage-by-stage execution. That is the importance of this plugin. And then we are also going to install SonarQube plugin as well, because we are going to install SonarQube and we are going to perform the code quality analysis using SonarQube. So for that, we need to install SonarQube also. So select a SonarQube scanner, and this plugin will help us to perform the code quality analysis. And then we are also going to install Docker as well, because we need Jenkins to connect with the Docker also. Why? Because whenever you are building the Docker image, that Docker image has to be pushed to the Docker hub, and then Docker container has to get created. So for that reason, we need to install all the plugins that are related to Docker. So select Docker, Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, and Docker Build Step. So these are the different things that we have to install. Once this is done, the next thing that we have to install is Kubernetes related thing. So let us install all the Kubernetes related plugins, because these plugins are something which are going to help us in order to deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster. So select Kubernetes, Kubernetes Client API, Kubernetes Credentials, Kubernetes CLI, and then Kubernetes Credentials Provider. Along with that, we can also install one more thing, which is Config File Provider. Okay, config file provider. So these are the different plugins that we are going to install with respect to Kubernetes. And then we are going to integrate Maven also. So for Maven integration, we are going to install a plugin called Maven Integration. Along with Maven Integration plugin, we are going to install one more plugin, which is called as Pipeline Maven Integration as well. And then, since this is a Java-based project, we need to install one more plugin, which is called as Eclipse Temurin Installer. This particular plugin will help us to select the different versions of the Java software that we are going to use for this project. So this plugin is something that is going to help us for that one. So let me select this particular plugin as well. And then we need to get the email notifications also. So in order to get the email notification, we need to install one plugin which is called as email extension template. So you can see this is the plugin. So select this particular plugin as well. Once after you select this particular plugin, then we are going to install the Prometheus plugin as well, because Prometheus is going to get the metrics and then it is going to give the visualization in the Grafana dashboard. So for that reason, we need to install a plugin which is related to the Prometheus, that is called as Prometheus metrics. So these are all the different plugins which I am going to install in the Jenkins. So let me show you all the plugins here also. So you can see Eclipse Temeran installer I have installed, SonarQube scanner. Let me show you one by one so that it will be better for you, so that you can also verify whether I have installed that particular plugin or not. So you can see Eclipse Temeran installer is somewhere I have installed. Let me show you that. So Eclipse Temeran installer. Yeah, you can see Eclipse Temeran installer that is installed. SonarQube scanner that is also installed. So let me show you that SonarQube scanner as well. And here is where SonarQube scanner that I have installed. You can see that. And then Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, Docker Build Step. All of these things have been installed. And then Pipeline Stage View is also installed. Email extension template, that also I have installed. All the Kubernetes related thing, that is also something which I have installed. And Maven integration and pipeline Maven integration is also something which I have installed. And Prometheus metrics, that is also something which I have installed. So I have selected all of these plugins. And once you select all the plugins, click on install so that all the plugins will get installed one by one. Now here, when you are installing one particular plugin, which is called as a Prometheus, Jenkins will ask you to restart the server. Okay, Jenkins will ask you to restart the server. So it is good to restart the server when you are working with Prometheus plugin. So let me show you that one. Once all these plugins gets installed, for Prometheus metrics, you can see Prometheus plugins does not support dynamic loading, and then Jenkins need to be restarted for update to take effect. So for that reason, we need to restart Jenkins. So how will you restart Jenkins? So here you can see there is a checkbox, restart Jenkins. So select this one so that automatically Jenkins will get restarted. Once Jenkins gets restarted, Jenkins will ask you to enter the username and password of the Jenkins. So whatever the username and password that you have set up while installing Jenkins and while configuring Jenkins, those are the same details that you have to provide for the restarting of Jenkins server if you want to connect back again. So let it come so that we can log into the Jenkins server. So you can see Jenkins has got restarted and it is asking me to enter the username and password. So enter the username and password, whatever you have set up, and then click on sign in so that you will be able to install all the plugins. You can see download, everything has got downloaded successfully. Now click on go back to the top page. Right. So with this, whatever plugins that are required in the Jenkins, all those plugins has got installed. Now, the next thing that we have to do is we need to do the configuration of tools. Now here, what configurations that we have to do is we need to configure JDK, we need to configure SonarQube, and we need to configure Maven here. So that along with that, we also need to configure Docker as well, because these are all the external tools. So if you want Jenkins to communicate with all of these external tools, you have to configure all these tools in the Jenkins so that Jenkins will understand that these tools are something which I am going to use. So how we are going to configure tools is go to Jenkins console and click on Manage Jenkins. So if you go to Jenkins dashboard, you can see Manage Jenkins. So click on Manage Jenkins. In the Manage Jenkins, you can see System Configuration. Under System Configuration, you will see an option called Tools. So let me show you that. Under System Configuration, you can see an option called Tools. So click on Tools, and here is where we are going to configure all the required tools. Right. So first, let us go with one by one. So firstly, let us go with JDK, that is JDK installation. Click on Add JDK, and here give some name. So I'm just giving it as Java or Java 17. So let me show you that. So here I have given it as JDK 17. So let us go with the same name. You can give any name here, no problem. Okay, and then click on Install Automatically, Add Installer, and here you can see an option called Install from adoptium.net. If you are not seeing this option, that means you have not installed a plugin called Eclipse Temeran Installer. If you have installed that plugin, you will see this option. If you are not seeing this option, that means you have not installed that plugin called Eclipse Temeran Installer. So select Install from adoptium.net, and here select the Java version. Typically here we are going to use Java 17 version. So let me select JDK 17 version. So let me go down, and if you scroll down, you can see JDK 17 versions are available. Different versions are available. So let us go with 17.0.8.1 plus 1. Okay, or 17.0.11 plus 9. That is also something that is fine. No problem with that. So 17.0.11 plus 9. Right. Anything you can go, but specifically you go with JDK 17 versions only, not any other versions. Right. So go with JDK 17 version, and then Git, it is not required. Let it be the default case. And then SonarQube scanner installations. So here we are going to install the SonarQube. So click on Add SonarQube. And here we need to give name to the SonarQube. So I'm going to give the name as sonar-scanner. Okay, sonar-scanner. And then select install automatically. Select the latest version of the SonarQube. So that is something which I have selected. And then scroll down, and here we need to install Maven also, because we need to build the application, right? That is, we need to package the application. So for that, we are going to use Maven as a build tool. So click on Add Maven, and here name, I am going to give it as Maven only. So you can see the name I have given Maven. So give Maven. And then version, I'm going to select the latest version, which is 3.9.9. So let me change it here also. 3.9.9 is the Maven version which I have selected. And then scroll down, click on Add Docker. And here, Docker name, I am going to give it as a Docker itself. Okay, let me give this name as Docker. And here, select Install Automatically. And then click on Add Installer. And here you will see an option called Download from docker.com. So that Docker will get configured. And the version will be latest version. So here I have configured 4 tools. What are those 4 tools? First one is JDK, second one is SonarQube, third one is Maven, and fourth one is Docker. So make sure to configure all these things properly, because if you configure these things in an incorrect way, your pipeline will get failed. So please be very careful about that. So click on Apply and then save it. So with this, we have successfully configured required tools in the Jenkins. Once this is done, the next thing that we have to do is we need to do the system level configuration for SonarQube. So the reason why we are going to do the system configuration for SonarQube is we need to tell to Jenkins that SonarQube is running on a particular port number and on a particular IP address. Same thing we have to convey to the SonarQube also. So for that, we need to do the configuration of the SonarQube in Jenkins, and also we need to configure Jenkins in the SonarQube as well. In both cases we have to do. So first, let us configure the SonarQube server. So for that, you need to go to the SonarQube server console, click on Administration, click on Security, and here is where you are going to generate one token. So let me go to the SonarQube dashboard, and here you can see an option called Administration. Click on Administration, go to Security. Under Security, you will see an option called Users. So click on Users here. And here you can see there is an option called Tokens. There is an option called Tokens. And you can see 4 bars here. So click on the 4 bars where you can generate the token here. So click on this 4 bars and enter token name. So you can give the token name. So whatever token name you want, you can give. So let me go with the name as a token. Okay, let me go with the name as token. And here expires in 30 days. That is more than fine for me. And then click on generate. So you can see the token. This token we have to configure in the Jenkins. So let me copy this SonarQube token and let me paste it here for future purposes if I miss by any chance. Right. Now this token, we are going to configure it in the Jenkins. So go to Manage Jenkins, Security, Credentials. Under Credentials, we have to configure this token. So let me go there. So go to Jenkins dashboard. In the Jenkins, go to Manage Jenkins, Security. You can see under Security, there is an option called Credentials. So click on Credentials. And here you will see an option called under Stores Scope to Jenkins. We can see an option called Global. So click on Global here. And then click on Add Credentials. And here we need to configure the SonarQube credentials. So SonarQube doesn't have any username and password. Typically it has, but what we need to do is we are going to configure the token here, SonarQube token. That is the reason why we have generated this SonarQube token. So for that, so since it's a secret text, so kind is selected as a secret text and scope is global secret. So whatever the SonarQube token that you have generated, copy the token and then paste it under secret. And here ID and description, we are going to give it as sonar-token. So you can see ID and description, that is something which I'm going to give it as sonar-token. Any name can be given, but these names are something which I'm going to use while writing the pipeline as well. So that's the reason why I'm going with same name. So click on create. So with this, we have configured the SonarQube token in the Jenkins. So now Jenkins will communicate successfully with the SonarQube. Similarly, we have to tell to SonarQube that Jenkins is also available. So for that, we need to configure the SonarQube webhooks. So how to create the SonarQube webhooks is go to administration in the SonarQube dashboard, go to administration. In the administration, under configuration, you can see an option called webhooks. So click on webhooks, and here currently there are no webhooks available. So let us create one webhook, and here name I'm going to give it as Jenkins, and URL is something which we need to give it as Jenkins URL. So if you go to Jenkins dashboard, so this is the Jenkins URL. So copy up to 8080 from HTTP to 8080 up to there only you can copy. So paste it, and then at the end you have to give SonarQube-webhook slash. Okay, SonarQube-webhook slash. So this is how you are going to configure the webhooks. So and then click on create. No need to give any secret, it's not required. So click on create. So with this, what we have done, we are telling to SonarQube that Jenkins is running on this particular IP address and this particular port number. Now SonarQube will communicate with Jenkins by using with this webhook, and Jenkins will communicate with SonarQube by using this particular credential. That is how we are going to do it, right? Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is we need to tell to Jenkins where SonarQube is running, in which IP address, in which port number SonarQube is running. So for that, we need to configure that in the Jenkins. So go to manage Jenkins system. In the system, you will see an option called SonarQube servers. So let me go to manage Jenkins. In the manage Jenkins, we need to go to system. So let me, under system configuration, you can see system. Under system, if you scroll down to the complete bottom of the page, you will see SonarQube servers. So let me do Control F with that, and you can see SonarQube servers. If you scroll down further, you will see that. And here we need to add the SonarQube. So what we need to add? We need to add the server URL. So let me give the name here. So I'm just going to give the name as Sonar here. So let me give the same name here as well. And then server URL. So which server URL we have to provide? SonarQube server URL. So go to SonarQube dashboard, and here you can see port number 9000. Copy up to port number 9000 from HTTP. So paste it and make sure to remove this slash which is there in the end. That is mandatory. Okay, remove that slash. And then Sonar authentication token. We have configured the token, right? So select, click on this drop down, and you can see the token, Sonar-token. So select the token. That's it. Once that is done, click on apply, save it. So with this, we have successfully configured everything that is related to the SonarQube. Okay, everything that is related to the SonarQube, right? Once that is done, then we need to configure Nexus also. So why we need to configure Nexus? Because whatever the artifacts that are generated in the Jenkins pipeline script, those artifacts should go and be available in the Nexus dashboard or Nexus repository. So for that, we have to tell to Jenkins where Nexus is running. So we need to configure Nexus here. So right. So how to configure Nexus firstly, and then we will see how to do the same thing in the Jenkins as well. So first go to the Nexus browser. In the left pane, you will see an option called browse. Let me show you that. So go to the Sonar Nexus browser, and in the left pane, you can see an option called browse. So click on browse here, and here, these are the different repositories that are available. So you can see the same details I have provided here. You can see Maven releases and Maven snapshots. So what is basically a Maven release? When you see Maven releases, that means the code is ready to deploy. Okay, ready to get deployed. When you see Maven snapshots, that means code is still in the development stage. Okay, stored code is still in the development stage. That is what release and snapshot. So where we mention this release and snapshot in the pom.xml file, which is there for our GitHub, in the GitHub repository. In our GitHub repository, we have a pom.xml file, right? So if you open pom.xml file, which is project object model, the full form of POM is project object model. So what does this contains? The dependencies will be available. And here you can see version. If you see the version as a snapshot, this number can be any number, but if you see version as a snapshot, that means code is still in the development stage. If you see the version as a release, that means code is ready to be deployed into the servers, right? So now we need to go to Nexus, and here you can see there are two things. One is Maven releases and Maven snapshots. These things are something which we are going to use it now, right? So you can see Maven releases and Maven snapshots, right? So here you can also see the description here, which I have given it for your understanding. So before doing the configuration of Nexus, we need to edit the pom.xml file, which is there in the GitHub repository. I told you, right? We have a pom.xml file here. So this pom.xml file, we need to modify it. So what modifications we have to do? So if you scroll down here, there is a particular modification that we need to do. That is a Maven-releases and Maven-snapshots. So here you can see there is a repository URL that is available. For Maven releases, there is a separate URL. For Maven snapshots, there is a separate URL. These two things we have to edit, which are mandatory. If you want the artifacts to go and store in the Nexus, these two things are essential. So let me click on edit this file. And then here we are going to get the Maven releases URL and Maven snapshots URL. So here you can see first we will get the Maven releases URL. So how will we get the Maven releases? If you go to Nexus and here you see Maven releases, there is an option called URL here. Under URL, you will see an option called copy. You'll see an option called copy. So click on copy. And then select this entire thing. So whatever that is available, copy this entire thing. And then go to pom.xml file, delete this one. Whatever that is currently available, delete this one. And then paste the one which you have copied. That is related to Maven releases. Now, same thing you have to do it for Maven snapshots also. So let me close it. And here you see Maven snapshots. And then click on copy. And you will see the URL. So copy this entire URL and go to pom.xml file. And here you have to remove the existing one and then paste the one that you have copied. Right. These two modifications, it's mandatory. Right. Once that is done, then you can commit the changes. So click on commit changes and then click on commit changes. Right. That is the same thing which I have given. So you see, open pom.xml at the bottom after dependencies tag, paste the below content. So I have already pasted. Only thing that you have to do is you have to change these change this URLs. For Maven releases, you have a separate URL. For Maven snapshots, you have a separate URL. So from the Nexus browser, copy the Maven releases link and paste in the above content. That is what I have done here. And from the Nexus browser, copy the Maven snapshots link and paste in the above content. That is what exactly I have done some time back in the GitHub repository. So that is the reason why I was forcing you to fork this repository, because I have already customized everything. You just have to change few things when you are practicing, right? So save the pom.xml file in the GitHub repository, right? That is done. Now we will configure the Nexus in Jenkins. So in order to configure Nexus in Jenkins, we need to go to Manage Jenkins, System Configuration. Under System Configuration, you will see an option called Managed Files. So let us go with that one. So go to Manage Jenkins, go to Jenkins dashboard, Manage Jenkins. In the Manage Jenkins, you will see an option called Managed Files. Okay, you'll see an option called Managed Files. Under System Configuration, you will see an option called Managed Files. So click on Managed Files here. Okay, if you are not seeing that particular option, that means you have not installed Maven related plugins. So make sure of it, right? So once you see this one, and here, the next thing that we have to do is add a new config. So you will see an option called Add a New Config. Click on this option. And here we are going to select a couple of options here. So one option which we are going to select is global Maven settings.xml. Okay, you can see that global Maven settings.xml. And then scroll down to ID and you will see an option called Maven-setting. Okay, let me show you that. So scroll down to ID and here you can see a default ID is available. Remove this ID and paste maven-setting. Okay, maven-setting. And then click on next. And here we need to configure few details here. You can see, scroll down to click on next and then scroll down to server tag. So if you scroll down, don't change any of these things. Let it be as it is. Under content, if you scroll down, there is an option called server tag. Okay, there is a tag called server. Let me show you that one. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will see an option called servers tag. Can you see that? Server tag. Okay, servers tag. Now here, if you scroll down further, you see that one, server tag. Now here, what you have to do is, this is actually commented line. These lines are commented. So whatever that you see it here, the commenting part, remove that one, and then just above the server tag, paste it. Once you paste it, you see the colors has got changed. That means these lines are uncommented now. Okay, these lines are uncommented now. Now here we have to do couple of changes. Let me show you the same thing here. So just scroll down to server tag. Just above another sample, you will see this symbol. That is what we have seen now. Just above another sample, we have seen this one. Earlier it was here. Okay, I have removed that, and then remove that and paste it above the server tag. So there is a server, right? So above the tag, I have pasted it. Right? That is what I have done. So you can see everything changed to green color. You can see that also. Right. And then under server tag, you will see deployment repo. You see that? Deployment repo. ID as deployment repo. Remove this and type Maven releases. Okay. Remove this and type Maven releases. So why we are typing this Maven releases? Because if you go to Nexus, we have Maven releases and Maven snapshots. If you remember, some time back, we have Maven releases and Maven snapshots. These are basically the repository names. So these names we have to configure here. That is what I'm doing. Okay. So in the place of deployment repo, we have to provide Maven-releases. Right. And then username. So we have Nexus username. Okay. What is the Nexus default username? Admin. So let me give the username as admin. Okay. This is the default username, which is admin. And then whatever password that you have provided for Nexus setup, that password you have to provide. So I'll be providing the password, which is this one. Okay, this is the password which I have provided. And once that is done, then copy the entire edited content and paste below it. Now we have done for Maven releases. Same thing we have to do it for Maven snapshots also. So let me copy this entire thing. And then hit enter. Paste it. Sorry. Let me copy this entire thing and then hit enter, paste it. So make sure everything is there in the same order. And here, instead of Maven releases, we have to give it as Maven snapshots. Maven snapshots. Let me remove this one and then paste it as Maven snapshots. And then username is admin. That is Nexus username is admin. Nexus password is this one, which I have provided. Once that is done, and then you can click on submit. Okay, click on submit. Done. So with this, we have successfully configured Maven in Jenkins also. Now, sorry, not Maven, Nexus in Jenkins. Now we are ready to build the pipeline. So you can see all the configurations I have done. But before doing these configurations, let's create one email notification. Okay, we need to get the email notifications, right? So for that, we are going to configure email notification. So in order to create the email notification setup, first thing what we have to do is go to your Gmail. Whatever is your Gmail account, go to your Gmail account. In the Gmail account, what you have to do is you need to go to your account settings. Okay, that is what I have given it here. Let me show you that one. So go to Gmail, click on top right icon on top right, and then click on your Google account, and you will see an option called security. So let me show you that one. So go to your Gmail. Let it come. And you can see this is my Gmail, and you can see on the top right corner, there is an account icon. So click on account icon. And then once you click on account icon, you will see an option called edit Google account. Okay, edit Google account. That is the same thing which I have provided. So you can see the same thing here. Click on your Google account security. So here we don't have this Google account, and then click on just edit Google account. That is more than fine. Okay, that is more than fine. So click on edit Google account, and here there is an option called security. So in the left pane, you can see an option called security. So click on security, and here make sure the two-factor authentication is enabled. If this is not enabled, you can see the direct option here to enable it. If you click on this one, you will see the option to get enabled. So make sure to enable this one. Okay, make sure to enable this one. I have already enabled, so I am not going to do it again. Okay, I'm not going to do it again. That is the first thing that you have to check. Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is, you can see the search bar. In the search bar, just type password or app passwords. Okay, so click on app passwords. So let me copy this entire thing and then let me paste it here instead of typing directly. So click on app password. You see, so app passwords, there is this option. So click on app passwords, and here we have to create one app password. Okay, we have to create one app password. So let me create one app password, and that app password we have to configure. Okay, we have to configure. Let me show you that in some time. So you can see the same details I have provided here. So click on it, enter password of Gmail that I have entered, and then click on next app name. So we are configuring it for Jenkins, right? So I'm giving it as Jenkins, and then click on create. You will see the password. You will see password something like this. Let me show you that. Right. So let me delete this existing one that is not required. App name Jenkins, and then click on create, and you will see the password. Okay, copy this entire password. Copy this entire password, and then I'll paste it here. Okay, I'll paste it here, and make sure to remove the spaces here. You can find the spaces, right? Remove those spaces. Don't keep those spaces. Okay, don't keep those spaces. Remove the spaces. Right. Copy it and make sure to remove the spaces in the password. Let's configure this password in Jenkins. Right. So how will you configure? Go to Manage Jenkins, System. Under System, you will see an option called Email Notification. Let me show you that. So go to Jenkins. Go to Jenkins. In the Jenkins, you will see an option called Manage Jenkins. Go to Manage Jenkins. In the Manage Jenkins, you will find an option called Email Notification under System. So let me show you that. So scroll down to System. Okay, you can see System. Click on System, and here you will see Email Notification. So scroll down to Email Notification. If you cannot find it, just do Control F and then type email. So let me give it this way. Email E-mail. Yeah. So extended email notification, and then scroll down. Yeah, you can see email notification. Don't go with extended email notification. Go with email-notification. And here, SMTP server that we have to give is smtp.gmail.com. We want to get the notifications for Gmail, right? So that's the reason why I'm giving it as SMTP server as Gmail. So provide it as Gmail here, and default username, our default user email suffix, we have to provide our email ID. So provide the email ID. So I'm just providing the email ID where I have generated the password. We have generated the app password, right? So I have provided this one, right? So you can see smtp.gmail.com, and then click on advanced. Okay, this is not required, so we'll give it later this one. So click on advanced, and here we have to select use SMTP authentication. Let me show you that also. So check use SMTP authentication. Username, provide your email ID. So let me go here and let us provide the SMTP authentication. Check that SMTP authentication. And here we have to provide the email ID, and whatever password that we have generated, that password we have to configure here. Okay, that password we have to configure here. So let us do that configuration. So username, I'm giving it as my email ID, and then password, we have generated the app password now. So copy that app password. So this is the app password. So copy this app password and then paste it. Make sure to remove the spaces. If you don't remove the spaces, it will be incorrect. Okay, it won't work properly, right? And then check use SSL and then SMTP port. So check use SSL. SMTP port is a default port is 465. That is what I'm giving. And then reply to email. So you want to get the email notifications to this particular address. So reply to email address. character set. And if you want to test the configuration, check test configuration and test email recipient. So select this one and then click on test configuration. If you have configured everything properly, you can see this option, which is email was successfully sent. So if you want to verify, go to your Gmail. Okay, go to your Gmail and you will be able to find out the email that you have received. So let me refresh this one and you see that. Okay, this is the email. So this is the test email one sent from Jenkins. So like this, you should get the email. Only then you can say that you have successfully configured everything. Now here, one more thing that we need to do is, I want to get the email notifications every time. Okay, I want to get the email notifications every time. So for that, what we have to do is, we need to scroll up to extended email notification. So let me show you that. Scroll up to extended email notification. You can see that here, extended email notification. And here, SMTP server, we have to provide as smtp.gmail.com. These are all the configurations. And SMTP port, we need to give it as a 465. So instead of 25, give it as 465. And then click on advanced and then credentials. Select email creds. So click on advanced here and you see there is no option of email creds. So here we have to add those credentials. We have to add those credentials. So let us add the credentials of email creds here. Email creds here. Right. So let us do that here. So check, select the email creds from dropdown, check use SSL and use, that is fine. So here you see, this is the point that we have to configure. Email hyphen creds. Okay, email hyphen creds. Select email creds. Right. So how will you do this? Go to Jenkins console. So let me open it in a new tab, manage Jenkins. And in the manage Jenkins, you see an option called security. Otherwise, directly you can also configure in the Jenkins also. So you don't have to go to manage Jenkins option. Let me show you this one. Here you see there is an option called add. So click on add, click on Jenkins. Okay. So global credentials, domain is global credentials, kind, username with password. Okay. Kind is username with password. So we have a username. What is the username? Our email ID. What is the password? Our password. So here we have generated the app password. Okay, you see kind is username with password, scope is global, and username provide email ID, password is paste the token. We have copied the token, right? We have created the token. So that token we have to provide. So username. So what is a username? So your email ID. So let me provide this email ID and then password. So we have copied that password already. The token we have generated now, app password. So copy that and then paste it. So whatever password that we have copied it here. So copy this password, app password, and then paste it here. And then ID, you can give it as, let us give it as email hyphen creds or email, whatever that we need, we can give that. So here you can see, so mail hyphen cred, this is what I have given. So let us go with the same thing. So mail hyphen cred and then mail hyphen cred. So click on add. And then here, credentials you see, click on the drop down and you see the mail credentials. So select the mail credentials, right? Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is click on advanced. So credentials I have selected and then check use SSL and use O authentication 2.0. Use SSL, use O authentication 2.0. That is what I have selected. And default content type is HTML. Okay, default content type is HTML. So let me default content type, plain text or HTML. So you can go with any one, whichever you want. So let us go with HTML, right? So once that is done, then we need to go to manage Jenkins. And here, this is what I have given. So this one, I can remove it from here because I think I have given it for 2 times. So I'll just remove it here. You can see the same thing here also I have provided. Okay, right. So let's make one last configuration with Jenkins. That is, whenever the build gets failed or whenever build gets success, I need to get the email notification. For that, we need to configure an option called default triggers. So let me go to, in the same page, let me go to an option called default triggers. If you scroll down, you will see an option called default triggers. So click on this default triggers. Currently, you will get the email only when the build is failed. If you want to get the email always, okay, anytime you should get the email notification, then you can select always. And if you want, you can also select a success also. Whenever the build is success, you will get the email notification. If you want, you can check all of these options also, no problem. So let me select all of these options also, nothing will be an issue. You'll get an email notification. So that's it. That's the maximum that will happen. So you can select all of these possible options and then test regression, unstable test failures. So all these options you can select, no issues, right? Once I selected all these options, now click on apply and save. That is what I have given. Okay, click on apply, click on save. Here I have given only check always, failure any, success. But there I have selected all of the options which are available. That's not an issue. Right. So this is how we can configure the email notifications in the Jenkins. Email notification in the Jenkins. Now we are good to go and write the pipeline script. So here what I have done is, let us create one job here first. So go to new item, and here I'll create the app item name as e-commerce app. E-commerce app. That is what I'm giving. And then pipeline project. Click on OK. Right. So here go to pipeline, and here I will directly paste the pipeline script. Okay, let me explain you that one before going here. So here you see the first one is without Kubernetes stage, and then the next pipeline will be with Kubernetes stage. So let me copy this entire thing, and then I'll explain you all of these steps. So let me copy this entire thing, deploy to container, and here you need to do few modifications. When you are doing, don't directly copy paste it here. Okay, we need to do few modifications. What are those? I'll tell you. But before that, let me explain you the stage by stage pipeline. So here, if you see, I have configured JDK as JDK 17. If you go to Jenkins, you go to Jenkins dashboard. Let me open it in a new tab. Go to Jenkins dashboard, and here go to manage Jenkins. In the manage Jenkins, I have configured tools now. So go to tools, and here I have configured JDK, Docker, Maven, and all those tools. Okay, so you see JDK installation. So click on JDK. What is the name I have configured? JDK 17. That is the same name which I have given it here. Maven, what is the name of the Maven configuration? If you scroll down, you will see Maven configuration. Click on Maven installation. And what is the name here? Maven. So whatever name I have given it here, the same name you should provide in the pipeline script also. And then SonarQube also. SonarQube I have provided as sonar-scanner. Let me show you that also. SonarQube installation. And you see sonar-scanner. That's the same name which I have provided here. And Docker image. So this is basically my Docker Hub account name. Okay, this is my Docker Hub account name. This is the image name. Image name can be anything. So here I am giving it as e-commerce latest. That's the latest image. So to this particular Docker Hub, the image will be available here. Okay, this will be the image name, and this is my Docker Hub username. Okay, Docker Hub username. Right. So these are the few details, basic details. Now here I have written different stages. The first stage is git checkout. Git checkout. That means get the code from GitHub repository. So whatever is the GitHub repository URL, that repository URL I have configured there. So how will you get the repository URL? Go to the repository, click on code, and here you see HTTPS, select the repository URL. Whatever the repository URL that you have got, paste that repository URL here. That's it. And then the next thing is compile. Okay, Maven compile. Let me keep it as a Maven compile. So in order to do the compilation, we have a Maven goal, which is called as MVN compile. And once compilation is done, Maven testing. So I'll just keep the stage name as Maven tester. So for that, Maven MVN test is the goal. And then if the skip test, I want it to be true, so I'm going to skip that test also. And then file system scanning. So I'm going to use a Trivi as the file system scan. So, and I want the report to get generated in the HTML format. That is what I have done. And then the next one is SonarQube analysis, that is code quality analysis. And with that one, here I have given the SonarQube name. So whatever SonarQube name I have configured in the Jenkins, that's the same name which I have given it here. Okay, SonarQube name, right? And then SonarQube scanner name I have provided. Project name is e-commerce. Project key is e-commerce. And where the binaries will go and store, target folder, and inside that classes directory. Okay, and then Maven build. Now Maven is going to build the project. That is by using a goal called MVN package. This is where we are going to get the jar or war file for the application and then publish to Nexus. So whatever the jar file or war file that gets generated, that jar or war file should go and deploy into the Nexus repository. So here also I have given this one, MVN Maven setting, JDK 17, Maven, all these things I have given. So and for deploying, we will use a command called MVN deploy. Okay. And then Docker build and tag. So image building and tagging the image. So for that, I have generated this one and then Docker build and then -t, t represents tag and Docker image. So how this Docker image will come? If you see, I have provided as a variable. So you can see Docker image, which is e-commerce latest. That's the Docker image which will come up here. And then Docker image scan. So if you want to scan the image also, we can do the scanning by using Trivy as well. And then the next thing is push the Docker image to Docker Hub. So I have configured a Docker-cred, right? Docker-cred. So tool name Docker and then these things, and then deploy to container. So this is my, if there are any running containers, it will stop the running containers and then it will create a new container. And application will run on port number 8083. 8083. That's a port number where application will run. Okay, this is the container name. Okay, this is the container name. And this is the port mapping. And how this container will get created? By using the Docker image. How this Docker image will come? From here. Sorry, from build under tag from here. Okay, that is how you can deploy the application into the Docker container. And once that is done, you will get the email notification. So you will get the job name, build number, whether job is success or failed, you will see that. And then to which email you will get the notification. So whatever email you have configured in the Jenkins, that email you have to change it here. So in your case, you will have a different email. So provide that email here. Right. Apart from this, nothing else is required to change here. So make sure to do all of these changes and then only you can do the things in the Jenkins. Okay. Apart from this, if you do directly, it won't work. So the build will get failed. So let us see. I'll copy paste everything. And if the build gets failed, I'll tell you what is the reason and where exactly it is getting failed. Okay. Let me explain you that also if it gets failed. So let me copy this entire thing and then paste it here. So go to here and then I'll just remove this entire thing and I'll paste it one more time. Right. That is done. And then click on apply, save it. Now, before this, before building the project, let me show you one more thing that we need to check out here. Okay. As I said, the application will be running on a port number 8083. So here I have configured that. Okay. And there is a Docker file also for the application. As I said, we have a Docker file. So you can see the Docker file. So let me click here, Docker file. And here you can see in the Docker file, I am going to expose the Tomcat default port number, which is 8080. That's a default port number of Tomcat. Okay, default port number of Tomcat. So here you can see first it is going to get the Maven and then Java 17. That is what Eclipse Temerin Java 17. And then working directory I have set up and copy the pom.xml file and get the dependencies from that. And then copy the source code, which is available in src folder. And then build the war file by using mvn clean package. And then it is going to get the Tomcat image for the deployment. And then it is going to set the working directory, that is web apps folder. And then copy the war file and then expose it on default port number, which is 8080. And then start the Tomcat. That is what I have given it in the Docker file. Right. So let's build the Docker, let's build the pipeline. So currently you see there are no builds available. So let's click on build now. But before clicking on build now, we want the image to go into the Docker Hub. Okay. So for that, make sure you must have logged into the Docker Hub from your EC2 instance. And also open your Docker Hub in the browser as well. Okay, open your Docker Hub in the browser as well. So let's do that one first. So I am opening Docker Hub in the browser. So what we have to do is we have to log into the Docker Hub from our EC2 instance. That is when the image will be pushed to the Docker Hub. So let's use this command docker login -u and then Docker Hub username. So in the Jenkins server, I'm doing this. So docker login -u And the Docker Hub username is Kastro V. That is my Docker Hub username. Okay. And then click enter. Type the password of your Docker Hub account. So I'm just typing the password of Docker Hub account. Remember, when you are typing the password, you will not see the password. Just type the correct password and then hit enter. Once you hit enter, you should see login succeeded. If you are not seeing this one, that means you have entered an incorrect Docker Hub password. So make sure of this one. This is mandatory before you build the pipeline. Before you build the pipeline, right? So here you can see there is an e-commerce app that's a 2 months old one. And now when we build the project, we will get the latest image. Okay, latest image. So let's click on build now, and you will see the first build has got triggered, and stage by stage the build will be shown. So let us see that. So what I'll do is I'll pause this video, and then once the pipeline is successful or failed, I'll show you whatever it is. And if it gets failed, I'll tell you the reason why it got failed, and we will see how to troubleshoot also. And remember, this is my first build only, right? You can see the stage by stage execution. Let me pause the video. After that, I'll come back and I'll do the same thing. So here you can see the first build that got failed here because there was some issue with the Docker Hub. So you can see the first build got failed, but you see the different stages has got executed. But if you come to the right side, you can see published to Nexus. The artifact has got published to the Nexus also. And you can see Docker build and tag. From here, the stage got failed. So let us see what is the reason why it got failed. So to understand the reason, go to the console output. You can see the first build, and you can also see SonarQube quality gate that is also passed. Okay. So first, let us verify this Nexus and SonarQube things, because Nexus and SonarQube is completed here. So let's go to SonarQube first. In the SonarQube dashboard, go to projects, and you will see the e-commerce project. Earlier it was not there. Now you can see the project, and the project code quality analysis is passed. So you can click on the e-commerce project, and you can see there are 348 bugs in the code, and these are the different things that you can get it. Okay, right. And then let us see the artifacts in the Nexus repository also. So let me go to Nexus. Let me reload the page. Let me reload the page of Nexus. And here you will find the artifact repository as well. Okay, artifact repository as well. If you go to Maven releases, so click on Maven releases. Okay, click on Maven releases, and you see there is nothing that is available. And similarly, let's go to Maven snapshots also. So go to Maven snapshots, and you see e-commerce app. Now, if you have a question like why Maven releases it is not there, why it is there in the Maven snapshots. If you remember in the pom.xml file, okay, we have the pom.xml file, right? In the pom.xml file, we have provided it as an releases only, not as a snapshot. If you remember, here version, not releases, snapshot. We have provided as a snapshot, not releases. So that is why if you go to Nexus, okay, if you go to Nexus, where is that? Let me just check it out. Yeah. If you go to Nexus, and here in the releases, you don't see anything here, no components. But if you go to Maven snapshots, click on Maven snapshots, and you see your application, e-commerce app. And here you can see snapshot 0.0.1 - snapshot. So how this name came, whatever name that you have provided in the GitHub repository, that is the same name which you are getting it here. You see that. Now click on this repository, and you will see the jar files. You'll see the jar files. But here, again, the thing is, let me click on this one. Okay, you can see that one, and you can see the different details, and you can click on the plus icon, and you can see the WAR file that is available. Okay, this is the WAR file which got generated for our application. Right. So these two things are clear for you, I hope. So SonarQube, deployment of application in the SonarQube, and deployment of artifacts in the Nexus repository. Not application in the SonarQube, deploy code quality analysis in the SonarQube. Now let's do that modification where the error went wrong. So Docker build tag stage. So let me go to this particular build. So click on build number, #1, and then go to console output. The error has occurred in a Docker build and tag stage. So let me go to that stage directly. Docker build and tag. So this is the stage where it got failed. If you scroll down, you will find the reason for error. So what is the reason? If you scroll down, you can see that. You can see could not find credentials matching Docker-cred. So there are no credentials. It is telling that, okay, you have given docker-cred in your pipeline script, but I am unable to find it. Okay. If you go to Jenkins dashboard and if you go to manage Jenkins and credentials, here if you see, do we have docker-cred anywhere? No. So that is the reason why it is showing I could not find that credentials. Now let's add that credentials. So in order to add the credentials, go to the job, e-commerce job, and then go to configure, and here, let me open the pipeline syntax here. If you go to a pipeline advanced, you see pipeline syntax. I'll open this pipeline syntax in a new tab. And here what we have to do is we need to do one edit. Okay, we need to add the credentials. Docker-cred option is there, right? That credentials we have to add. And that is the same thing which I have given it here. Docker configuration for Jenkins pipeline. So open pipeline syntax, sample stepper with the Docker registry. So let me select that one. Sample stepper with the Docker registry. So let us check that one with the Docker registry. Yeah, you see that with the Docker registry sets up Docker registry endpoint and with Docker server, but we have to select with the Docker registry. So select that one. That is what I have mentioned in the documentation also. You can see that with Docker registry sets up Docker registry endpoint and then Docker registry URL. So this is basically a public repository. So you don't have to give any kind of URL. It's not required. And here is where we have configured the Docker credentials. If you click on the dropdown, you can see only mail credentials are available. So let us add the Docker credentials also. So click on add, click on Jenkins, click on add, click on Jenkins, domain global, username with password. Kind is username with password. Why? Because Docker Hub will have an username and password, right? So scope is a global username. What is the Docker Hub username? My Docker Hub username is Kastro V. And my Docker Hub password, I'm just going to enter my Docker Hub password properly. And then ID. What is the ID that we have to give? Docker-cred. Okay, Docker-cred. You can see username Docker Hub username, password Docker Hub password. ID is Docker-cred. Okay, Docker-cred and description also Docker-head. Click on create and select the registry credentials Docker-cred. And here click on generate pipeline script. So you got the pipeline script, right? Copy this line alone. Copy this line alone and now go to your job and here you see Docker build and tag. That stage is there, right? So this one, Docker build and tag. In this stage, you see this one. So you have to paste that one here. Okay, with Docker registry. So you see it is not required. So this one you remove it, existing one, and then paste this one. Sorry, let me copy it one more time. With Docker, only this line alone is sufficient. So copy this line, go here, select this entire line, and then paste your line. That's it. Okay. If there is anywhere else also, you have to provide the same thing. So you see that here also it is required. With the Docker registry, remove this one, paste it here. Right. That is done. And then if there is anywhere else also, we have to provide. I don't think anywhere else is there. So let me click on apply, save it. Now let's do the job building one more time. So this is the second build. First build has got failed at Docker build and tag stage. Now we have configured Docker credentials. Let's verify. If it gets failed again, let us see what is the error. So click on build now and you see the second build is also triggered. So I'll pause the video and then I'll come back and I'll explain you if there is any error that appears. So you can see the second build has got successfully built and you can see all the stages has been built. So the only change what we have done from the first build to second build is in the second build, we have added Docker-creds. So make sure to add that one so that your pipeline will be successful. Now our application has been deployed into the Docker container and the image has been pushed to the Docker Hub. And now we are able to access the application also. So let us see how we will be able to access the application. As I said earlier, our application will be running on a port number 8083. Right. So let us go and access the application using port number 8083. So for that, first thing what we have to do is we have to get the IP address of the Jenkins server. because we have deployed our application in the Jenkins. So where our Jenkins is running inside the Jenkins server. So let us get the public IP address of the Jenkins server. So get the public IP address of the Jenkins server and then go to a new tab. So let me copy the public IP address of the Jenkins server, go to a new tab, paste the IP address :8083. So paste it and then click and enter. Now you should be able to see the application. So this is your e-commerce application, which we have deployed successfully. So you can say that you have deployed the application successfully in the Docker container. So you can see all these details. Again, as I said, this application is not developed by me and the code is not written by me. It was written by someone else. I have just got this code and then I have modified it according to the requirement and then I have changed. So typically here you cannot do customer registration, customer login, admin login. This is not a database related one. So it is just the sample application where you will see the front end of the application. If you click on customer login and all these details also, you can see customer registration. You will see all these details. So let's say I'll set the customer username and I'll also set the password as well. Let me set the password also. I'll give the email ID also and then give the contact number. Suppose let's say I'll just give it as all 9s I'll give and then click on register. So typically it won't add any kind of customers and all. Okay, so it is just the front end of the application. So don't try to log in here because you will not be able to log in. So this is how we can successfully deploy the application into the Docker container. So we have got the artifacts that got stored in the Nexus, and we have the code quality analysis test, which is done by using the SonarQube. That is also done. And finally, we have our application deployed into the Kubernetes cluster. In the Docker container. Now, let's say whenever developer does any kind of changes in the GitHub repository, you want the changes to be automatically identified by Jenkins, and then the application should the pipeline should automatically trigger on its own whenever there is a change. So for that, what you can do, you can add a GitHub webhook. So how will you add a GitHub webhook? Go to the repository, go to settings. In the settings, you will see an option called webhooks. You'll see an option called webhooks. You can see there is an option called webhooks. So click on webhooks and here click on add webhook. And here we need to add the details. So let me add the details here. So let me just log into GitHub first and then I'll show you that option. So I hope you are aware of how to create a GitHub webhook. So I'm not going to show it anyway, but I'm just going to show you the option where the option will be available so that it will be easy for you to identify in the future cases. Okay, so automatically whenever the deployment has to happen, you can give that. So you can see the payload URL, you can give the Jenkins URL here and then GitHub-webhook. That is something that you can give and then click on add webhook. Once you add the webhook, what will happen? You have to configure this webhook in the Jenkins. So how will you configure that? Go to configure. Okay, open the job and then go to configure. You will see an option called build triggers. So you can see triggers here and you see an option called GitHub hook trigger for GitSCM polling. You have to select this option. That's it. Once you select this option and once you have configured webhook in the GitHub account, GitHub repository, that's done. So you will be able to automatically, Jenkins will find the changes in the GitHub repository. If developer makes any changes, automatically those changes will be identified by Jenkins by using the webhook, and then it will automatically trigger the pipeline. So that you can practice it out when you are practicing. So currently I'm not going to show that option. So it's a very simple step. So I hope you are all aware of that particular thing. If you are not aware, you can let me know. I'll try to incorporate that in the next project or upcoming project video. Right. So this is all about deploying the application into the Docker container. You can also see the Trivy report also, Trivy report URL also. Okay. Now what we will do is we will deploy the same application in the Kubernetes cluster, that is in the EKS cluster. Okay, that's in the EKS cluster. So let me show you that also. Deploying to EKS cluster. So for that, we have to create a service account, we have to create a role and couple of other options. But before doing all of these things, we have to create the EKS cluster first. So let me show you that also. So you can see the step-by-step process, creation of EKS cluster. First, we have to create one IAM user, and then we have to give required permissions for that IAM user. And then we have to create access keys and secret keys. We have to configure them. And then we have to proceed with next steps. Okay, installation of CLI, kubectl, EKSCTL, and then creation of cluster, node group, and then all of the details. We will see all these ones in the next, in some time, right? So let us do the deployment of the application in the Kubernetes cluster, where we are going to deploy in the EKS. Specifically in AWS cloud, we have a service called EKS service. In the EKS, we are going to deploy the same application, and we will access the same application by using the load balancer URL. That is what we are going to do it. So now let us work with creation of EKS cluster. So in order to create the EKS cluster, first we need to create one IAM user, because directly Jenkins and also the EC2 instance cannot directly communicate with the EKS cluster. So what we have to do is we have to create one IAM user, and for that IAM user, we have to provide required policies, and upon which we have to configure AWS. Only then the EKS cluster and Jenkins will communicate with each other. Right. So first what we will do is let us create one IAM user. So currently I am there in the IAM console. You can see in the left pane, there is an option called users. So when you click on this one, you will see these ones. So I'll not work with the existing users. Let's create a new user. So I'll just create the user as a Kastro-user, and then provide management console. I want to create an IAM user. Let it be the auto-generated password, and let me uncheck this one. And let me create next, and then click on next. I don't want to attach any kind of policies. We'll attach it once after we create the user, right? And then click on create user. So with this, we have successfully created the IAM user. Once the IAM user is created, so let me click on view user, continue. And here we need to attach some policies. Okay, some predefined policies we have to attach. So you can see I'm currently there in the Kastro user, and go to permissions. In the permissions, you can see an option called add permissions. So click on add permissions, and then click on add permissions. And here we need to attach one policies, which are directly available, provided by AWS itself. So select attach policies directly. And here we have to provide a couple of policies. So let me show you those policies here. The first one is EC2 full access, because Jenkins has to access the complete EC2 console, because that is where all our EC2 instances are available. So I'm giving EC2 full access, and then EKS CNI, that is customer network policy, that also we are going to give the permissions, because CNI policy will provide us required permissions in order to work with the EKS cluster. So EKS CNI policy, and then EKS cluster policy. So it has to access the cluster also, right? So we need to provide the cluster permissions also. So in order to provide the cluster permissions, the policy is EKS cluster policy. And then we have to attach the worker node policy also, because once we create the EKS cluster, we'll be creating the worker nodes. Okay, worker nodes. So that worker node policy also we have to attach. So that's something which I have selected. And then all of these things will get created based on the CloudFormation. So CloudFormation templates. So we need to give the CloudFormation full access also. And then it is all working because of the IAM user. So for IAM user, we need to give IAM full access also. So let me give all of these things and then click on next. No, so currently you can see 6 policies are attached. These are the AWS managed policies. So let me click on add permissions. With this, all the policies are attached. Now we need to create one more policy that's called as custom policy. Okay, customer managed policy. So how will we create that? Go to permissions, add permissions, click on create inline policy. So that policy, I have already given it in the documentation. So you can refer that policy, and whatever policy that I have given, just you have to copy paste that one. So go to JSON here, and whatever the existing policy that is available, delete that existing policy. It's not required. Delete that existing policy. And here you see there is a policy which I have provided. Okay. So this policy is something which will allow the complete EKS permissions and all the resources available here in the EKS. So that is what this policy is. So just paste that policy and then click on next and then click on create policy. So give the policy name. So I'll just go with the policy name as EKS inline policy. Any name can be given, but I'm just going with this default name, which I generally follow, and then click on create policy. So with this, totally 7 policies we have attached. 6 AWS managed policy and 1 customer managed policy. So total 7 policies we have attached. You can see that. A total of 7 policies we have attached to the IAM user created. Right. Once we do this one, then we need to create the access keys and secret keys. This is for configuration. So how will you create? Open the user created. So this is the user which I have created. And here you can see security credentials. In the security credentials, if you scroll down, there will be an option called access keys. So click on create access key and go with the command line interface. And here click on confirmation and then click on next and then click on create access key. So now you will be able to see the access keys and secret keys. So let me copy this access key and let me paste it here. Similarly, let me get the secret key also, because these things we are going to configure it in sometime in the Jenkins server. Right, I have created the access keys and secret keys. Now what we need to do, we need to install the CLI, because we are going to work with commands to create the EKS cluster, to create the node groups and all those things. We are going to work with commands. So if you want to work with commands, we need AWS CLI for that. Why? In order to interact with the AWS account. So for that, let me install all these ones. So let me execute all these commands one by one so that we can work with them. Otherwise, you can also copy all of these commands and you can create one shell file. That is also fine. So let us do creation of the shell file itself, because that's a best practice that we are following from the beginning of this video. Right. So let me copy, let me go to MobiXterm and I am there in the Jenkins server. You can see that. Now let us create one file which is called as a vi aws cli.sh. That's the file name which I am going to create. So vi aws cli.sh. Now inside this file, what we are going to do is we are going to paste all the commands, whatever we have copied. So these are all the commands that we have copied, right? So copy all of these commands and then go here and then type vi aws cli.sh. Let me type that. So let me hit enter and then go to the insert mode and then paste all the commands, whatever we have copied. So let me copy it one more time and then paste the commands. Come out of the file, press escape, :WQ. What these things will do is it will install the AWS CLI. So let us execute that one, sh space aws cli.sh. Once the CLI is installed, okay, what we need to do is we need to configure AWS. So how will we configure AWS? So for that, we have a command which is called as AWS configure. So click enter. And now it will ask you to provide the access key. So we have created the access key, right? So copy this access key and then paste it here, hit enter. Now it will ask the secret access key also. Copy the secret access key and then paste the secret access key and then hit enter. Default region name. Currently, I am working in Mumbai region. So all my resources I have created, sorry, not Mumbai region, North Virginia region. So I'll just go with that region name, US East 1. And then default output format, you can give it as JSON or you can give it as table. Or if you don't give anything also, that's not an issue, right? So with this, we have successfully configured the AWS, right? Once that is done, let's install the kubectl. Why kubectl is required? If you want to interact with the Kubernetes cluster, we need kubectl for that. So let us copy all of these commands and then let me create one more shell file, vi kubectl.sh. Hit enter, go into insert mode, paste it, and then press escape, :WQ. Now let's execute the kubectl.sh file so that kubectl will get installed. So once this installation is successful, then we will be able to communicate with the Kubernetes, right? Now let's install EKS which is used to create the EKS cluster, okay? Right, so let me copy all of these commands and then let me create a shell file, which is the name called EKSCTL.sh. Then hit enter, go to the insert mode, and then paste the commands which are related to EKSCTL. Now let's execute EKSCTL.sh file also so that EKSCTL will get installed. And you can see this is the version which got installed. Now we are ready to create the EKS cluster, right? So in order to create the EKS cluster, these are the different commands that we are going to use, right? So first we will create the cluster. I am going to give the cluster name as Kastro-EKS, and here I'll change the region code. So US-East-1. I want to create in North Virginia region. So US-East-1A, so that's availability zone, and US-East-1B, that is 1B availability zone. And version, EKS cluster version, I'm going to go with the 1.30, which is almost the latest one only. And node group, I'm not going to create it here. I'll create it explicitly after some time, right? So let me copy this entire command so that EKS cluster will get created here. So let me go here and let me paste it. But before executing this command, let me go to the EKS cluster. Okay, let me go to the EKS service. And here in the EKS service, let me show you whether we have the cluster called Kastro-EKS. Okay, this is the cluster name. If you want, you can change this cluster name, and you can also change the regions as well. But here, I'm not going to change the cluster name. Let it be as it is. And you see, I'm there in the North Virginia region. So for North Virginia region, the region code is US East 1. That is what I have mentioned. If you are working with Mumbai region, you have to give that particular region code, right? So currently, you see, I don't have any clusters that are available. So let me hit enter so that the cluster will get created. Okay. And remember, this cluster creation process will take at least 10 to 15 minutes of time. Okay. It won't get created just like that. It will take 10 to 15 minutes of time. So what I'll do is I'll pause this video. Once the entire cluster is created, then I'll show you in the EKS cluster whether cluster is available or not. Okay. Right. So let me pause the video and let me come back once the cluster is successfully created. So you can see the cluster has got successfully created with the name called Kastro-EKS in US East-1 region. So you can see the status is also ready. So let's go to AWS console, especially the EKS service. In the EKS service, you will be able to see the clusters. So can you click on clusters here and you will see the cluster that you have created. You can see Kastro-EKS. And the version of the cluster is 1.30. If you want, you can upgrade it also. But currently, let's not upgrade that one. And I'll go with the status is also active. Now we can work with EKS cluster. But again, we have just created the plain cluster. We have not created the worker nodes and we have not given the permissions. So for that, what we need to do is first we have to provide the IAM OIDC provider. OIDC means OpenID Connect. Okay, that's something which is required to work with EKS cluster using IAM roles. Okay, using IAM roles. So you can see the details also. I have provided it clearly. So the same thing I have explained in one of my previous videos also, that is Book My Show application. If you want, you can refer that application, that video for the description and the details of this particular command. But anyway, I'll just execute this one because that's the something which is used for the OIDC provider. So copy this command and then go here, paste it, and then click OK. And then click enter. Make sure to change the region name and cluster name. If you are creating a cluster with different name and a different region, you have to change these two. Right. Once it is done, then hit enter so that OIDC provider will get created. Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is creating the node group. So in order to create the node group, this is the command. So create node group. And for this cluster, I want to create the node group. So this is my cluster name. And in which region, that also we have to provide. Node group name. If you want, you can change the node group name also. I'm just giving it as node 2. You can give any name, whatever you want. And node types also instance type, that is T3.medium I'm going. If you want, you can go with whatever instance types that is required for you in the real-time scenarios. And I need minimum nodes 2, maximum capacity as 4, and desired capacity is 3. If you want, you can change these also according to your requirement. And the volume size, I'm going with 20 GB, that is more than 5. And here, one most important thing that you need to change mandatorily is SSH public key. So here, we need to provide the PEM file name. Now, if you ask me which PEM file name, so we are creating the EKS cluster using Jenkins server. So when you are launching a Jenkins server, you must have used one PEM file, okay, .pem file. So whatever the PM file that you have used to launch the Jenkins server, that is the same file name that you should provide it there in the command. So let me show you what is the PEM file name which I have used to launch the Jenkins server. Actually, for all these servers, I have used this common PEM file name. But if you have used a different PEM file, and if you have a doubt that which PEM file name you have to provide, whatever the PEM file that you have used for the Jenkins server, if you scroll down, I have selected the Jenkins server. If you scroll down, you will see the PEM file name. Okay, let me show you that PEM file name, and then I can show you the other things related to that. So somewhere here, PEM file will be available. Yeah, you can see key pair assigned at launch. So this is the PEM file name. Exactly this name you have to provide it here. Okay, exactly this name you have to provide it here. Make sure of it. Right. Once that is done, let me execute this one so that the node groups will get created. Okay. Again, this particular command will take some time to get executed because it will create the node groups. It will add a couple of permissions, all those things. So currently, how many node groups will get created? 3 node groups will get created with T3.medium, and the node group names will be node 2, and this will be the public key which will be attached. Right. Let me hit enter so that 3 node groups will get created. Right. So by this time, what we can also verify is if you go to instances, here currently I have only 3 instances. Now 3 additional instances will get created. That is what node groups are actually. Okay, that is what node groups are actually. So 3 node groups we have given, right? So once this command gets successfully executed, then you can see 3 additional instances. Currently we have 3. We will get 3 more instances. So total 6 instances we are going to get. So 3 instances are related to Jenkins, Nexus, and SonarQube, and the other 3 instances are EKS cluster worker nodes. Okay, worker nodes. Right. Let me pause the video, and once this command gets executed successfully, then I'll come back again and I'll discuss further things. So you can see the worker nodes also got created. So let us verify whether worker nodes got created or not. So how will you verify? Go to the EC2 console. In the EC2 console, just refresh the page. You will see the worker node groups. Okay, worker node instances. So these instances are something which are related to the EKS cluster. So let me show you that. You can see earlier there were 3. Now there are 6 worker nodes. So 6 EC2 instances. Out of these 6, you can see 3 belongs to EKS cluster. So the same thing you can also find out in the EKS cluster also. Open the cluster, whatever you have created. And then if you go here under network, under compute options, you will see worker nodes, node groups. So how many nodes are available? 3 nodes are available. Okay, 3 nodes are available. Right. So this is about the basic setup that is required for EKS cluster creation. Once it is done, if you want the worker nodes to communicate with control plane, or if you want a communication between a control plane and worker nodes, we need to open one traffic in the security group of EKS cluster. So what is that traffic? Let me show you that. All traffic we have to open. So first to open the cluster that you have created, go to networking tab. So if you see here, there is a tab called networking tab. So click on networking tab. In the networking tab, under additional security groups, you will see a link. So let me show you that. Under additional security group, can you see this one? Right. So here is the link. So click on this link. Okay. And here we need to open all traffic. Okay. In the inbound rules, edit inbound rules, add rule, all traffic, anywhere IPv4. So we need to open these rules. So why that is required? Because if you want the cluster to communicate with worker nodes or worker nodes to communicate with the cluster, EKS cluster, that is for internal communication. So for that reason, we need to open this particular thing. So click on, go to inbound rules, edit inbound rules, and here add rule. And here we need to go with all traffic. So let me go with the all traffic and then source anywhere IPv4 and then click on save rules. Right. This is one thing that we have to do mandatory. So these are the fundamental things that are required to set up the EKS cluster. So with this EKS cluster is ready, and also the worker nodes are also ready, and the communication between the worker nodes is also ready. Now what we have to do is we need to create some roles. Okay, we need to create some roles. So let me show you that. If you scroll down to the bottom of this documentation, where you can find deploying to EKS cluster. So here what we have to do, we have to create one service account, we have to create a role, and we have to assign that role and create a secret for service account and generate one token. These are all the things that we have to do. Right. So first let us create one service account. Okay, let us create one service account. So here what I'll do is we'll create one namespace called web apps namespace. You can create any name, but let us go with web apps namespace. So here I have given the same namespace. If you want to change, you can change this also. Okay, but I'm going with the same one. So let us create one service account. So for that, I'll create one svc.yml file, vi svc.yml. Remember, all of these things I'm executing in the same Jenkins server. So vi svc.yml, and then paste all the commands, whatever I have given. So it will just create one service account with the namespace called web apps. So press escape : WQ. Right. Now, once that is done, let us create one web namespace. So the namespace name is kubectl create namespace web apps is the namespace. Okay. So once you create that namespace, then we can execute the service.yml file, that is svc.yml. You can see web apps is also created. I mean, namespace web apps is also created. Now let us apply the service.yml file. So kubectl apply -f svc.yml. What is this svc.yml? This is the one which we have kept. Right. Hit enter so that service will also get created. So you can see service account Jenkins got created. Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is we need to create one role. Okay, we need to create one role. So this role is something which will give the permission to access different things that are available in the EKS. Okay, so let me copy this one and let me create a role, vi role.yml, go to the insert mode and then paste the entire commands. So this is the role name, and you can see role name and namespace. Under which namespace I'm creating this role? Under the namespace called web apps. And these are all the groups, API groups and its rules and all those things. So let me press escape : WQ. So I'm not explaining these YML files because I assume like when you are doing projects, that means you are fundamentally know the basic things about each and every DevOps tools. So that's why I'm not going into the details of this one. My intention about these projects is about how to create the projects. Okay, how to create the projects and fundamentally letting you know what will be there in each YML files and each Jenkins file and Docker file. Right. So let us execute this role.yml file also. kubectl apply role.yml. Okay, role.yml. So with this role.yml has got executed, and you can see app-role got created. So this is the role name, app-role. Once that is done, let us bound the role to service account. That's most important. So let me copy this entire thing and let me create a file called bind.yml. Any names you can give for the YML files. So I'm just giving the default names which I generally prefer. Right. So press escape : WQ and let us execute the bind.yml file. kubectl apply -f bind.yml. Right. So with this, the role binding also got created. This is the role binding name, app-role binding got created. Once that is done, if you want to use a service account for the deployment process, we need to create one token for the service account. Okay. And that token is something which will be used as an authentication. So for that, let us create one file called vi secret.yml. So let me create that file, vi secret.yml, hit enter, go to the insert mode. And here you can observe, paste the below content. So if you want, you can get the secret content from this reference URL also. But I have already given it here directly. So you can directly take this one, no issues. So that what will get created, a secret will get created. So let me paste this entire thing. And the secret name is my secret name. You can change these names, no issues. Okay, let me press escape : WQ. Now let's execute the secret.yml file. So kubectl apply -f and then web apps -n web apps. What is web apps? Namespace. Okay, kubectl create apply -f secret.yml. And here what we need to go use is -n web apps. Web apps actually is the namespace name. Okay, namespace name. So hit enter. Okay, kubectl create. So let me use this command. So kubectl apply -f secret.yml -n web apps. So don't use this command. It's not working. So you can use this one. Right. You can see my secret name. So this is the secret name which we have created. Right. So once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is we need to get the token. So in order to get the token, the command is kubectl describe my secret name -n web apps. Okay. So this is the command, kubectl describe secret. What is my secret name? My secret name. So that is the secret name which we have created now. And in which where it has created in the web apps. What is this web apps? Namespace name. Right. So hit enter and you will see the secret. So this is the token. So copy this entire token, and this token we are going to configure in the Jenkins in some time. So let us do that in some time. Okay, let me remove this entire thing. Let me paste it here. Right, this is the token. Now, what we will do is let us create the token. Okay, let us create the token in the Jenkins. Okay, this token is there, right? This one we will configure in the Jenkins. So go to manage Jenkins, security, credentials. Okay, let me go to Jenkins dashboard. And here in the Jenkins dashboard, go to manage Jenkins. So let me go to manage Jenkins. And here we need to go with an option called global credentials. Under credentials, there will be an option called global credentials. So let us go there. First, let's go to security. Under security, you can see credentials. That is what I have given it here. You can see that security credentials. So, and once you go to credentials, then we have to go to global credentials. So you can see under stores scope put to Jenkins, click on global. So click on global. And then here we need to add the credentials. So let me add the credentials, click on add credentials, kind of. It's basically a secret text. No, this is basically a secret text. So let me copy this entire thing and kind, I will select it as a secret text. Scope is global, secret. So paste the text, whatever you have copied here, this text exactly you have to paste it here, right? Once that is done, and then ID, I'll be giving it as K8-token. And description also I'll be giving it because this is the same name which I'll configure in the Jenkins pipeline. So click on create. So with this, Kubernetes token is also configured successfully. Once that is done, the next thing that we have to do is we need to create the deployment stages in the pipeline script. You can see I have already added those stages. So up to here we have done previously. Now deploying to Kubernetes cluster and verifying the deployment. Now, if you have a doubt how this entire thing has come, for that we need to generate the pipeline script, pipeline syntax. You can see pipeline syntax. Let me show you that option also. So first go to the job which we have created, open the job, and then go to configure. In the configure, go to advanced. And here you see there is an option called the pipeline syntax. Open pipeline syntax in new tab. And here we need to select the sample step. So what is the sample step name? With kube credentials, configure Kubernetes CLI kubectl. Exact thing we have to select. So let me show you that one. With kube credentials, you can see that. With kube credentials, okay, with kube configure Kubernetes CLI kubectl. That's the thing. You can see, you can verify it here also. With kube credentials, configure Kubernetes CLI kubectl. That's the same thing. Right. Kubernetes credentials, we have just configured the token now. So select a Kubernetes token. You can see that. That's what I have selected. And then Kubernetes, select Kubernetes server endpoint. So how will you get this endpoint? If you want to get the endpoint, go to EKS cluster. In the overview tab under details, you will find that. Let me show you that. Go to EKS cluster. In the overview tab, you can see overview. In the overview tab under details, you can see server endpoint. So copy this server endpoint. So copy this server endpoint and then paste it here. Right, I have pasted it. And then cluster name. So what is my cluster name? Exactly, you have to provide it. So cluster name is Kastro-EKS. So make sure these names are very, very important. Okay, cluster name. So I have provided that also. You can see overview tab, details, copy the API server endpoint and paste it. Cluster name, give the name as it is in the cluster. Context name, you can leave blank. Namespace which we have created is web apps. So give the namespace name as a web apps. Okay, if you have created with a different name, you can give whatever name that you want. And then click on generate pipeline script. So let me click on generate pipeline script so that you'll get the script. You can see. So copy this entire thing as it is. Okay, copy this entire thing as it is. And then paste it in the pipeline script, which I have provided in the documentation. You don't have to change anything. Just paste that entire script as it is, as I have copied. You can see that. So first the 2 lines, you just copy it. And then scroll down and let me paste the script here in the deployment stage, Kubernetes deployment stage and verify the deployment stage. These things. Okay, so let me remove this entire thing and let me paste it one. Right, I have done that one. And here also you have to do in the next stage also. Paste it. That is also done. So once that is done, then the deployment service YML file. So from where this YML file is available, it is there in my GitHub repository. So if you go to my GitHub repository, let me show you that. If you go to my GitHub, let me go to my GitHub repository. If you go to GitHub repository, there is a YML file. Okay, deployment -service.yaml. So whatever is the file name, that exact file name, you have to provide it here. Okay, if you change anything, the deployment won't happen properly. So please be very careful about that also. So you can see here deployment-service.yaml. That is the same file name that you also have to provide it in the script as well. So you can see the same file name what I have provided here, deployment-service.yaml, and where it got created in the web space, in the namespace called web apps. So that is what it is. This thing. It is going to apply the deployment-service.yaml file in the namespace called web apps namespace, and this file is available in my GitHub repository. And then in the verifying the deployment part, it is going to verify the deployment where it is going to list the pods that are available in the web space namespace called web apps namespace. And then it is going to display the service called the web apps. I mean, whatever service that is there in the namespace called web apps namespace, that service will also be displayed there, right? So that two things, you please be very careful about that. So you can see the deployment service.yml file. I have provided it here. So this is something API version, which is app/1 and kind. Basically, I'm doing the deployment. So what is the deployment name? E-commerce-deployment and app name. Okay, these are the selectors, match labels, and all those things. And replicas. How many replicas I want? 2 replicas. Okay, 2 replicas. By any chance, if one replica gets failed, the other replica will be still working so that end users will not face any problem while accessing the application. And then the template, which is basically the e-commerce, that's a template. And the containers, basically the container details, Docker container details. So container name, I'm giving it as e-commerce. And then image, how this container gets created by using the image, which is available in the GitHub repository. So here you have to do the changes. Okay, under image, whatever thing that is available, you have to change. Here I have provided Kastro V, which is my Docker Hub username. So in your case, you will have a different Docker Hub username. So make sure to change the usernames also. And then image pull policy always. So basically, whenever there is a new image or an updated image that is available, those updated image should always be pulled by the Jenkins. And then container port is 8080, the port that container is running in the cluster, right? So these things are mandatory to do the changes. Once these changes are done, then you can paste the script in the Jenkins pipeline or Jenkins file, and then you can deploy the application successfully. Let me show you that also. So first, let me copy these stages because these stages are important, right? So let me copy these ones and let me paste it in the Jenkins job. So let me go to the Jenkins job. Go to the Jenkins job, and here, if you scroll down to the complete bottom, just before, after deploy to container stage, just before that, you can make it. Okay, you can paste it here. So let me keep it here, and then let me paste this entire thing, and then let me also paste the other stage as well, that is verifying the deployment. So let me copy this entire thing and let me paste it here. Right. So these things are done. Once these things are successfully done, then you can build the job. So let me copy this entire thing and then let me click on apply, save it. Now let's build the job. So click on build now. Now you can see second build was successful where the deployment happened in the Docker container. Now we will try to deploy in the Kubernetes cluster. So click on build now. And you can see the third build has got scheduled and third build has got failed. So let's verify what is the issue here. So click on build, console output, and you will see what is the exact error here. So let's verify what is the error. The error is majorly because of it didn't have proper closing brackets and opening brackets. So let me modify that one. Go to the e-commerce app and then let me go to configure, and here I need to edit one opening braces and closing braces. So I'll directly paste the modified one. So let me copy this entire thing and let me paste it here. So just give me a second for that. Then let me paste it here and then let me click on apply save. Okay, right. Once that is done, then we can build the job and let's see if there is any more error that will come. So this is the third build which got failed initially itself. Now let me click on build now and let's see the fourth build, what will happen exactly. If there is any error, again, we'll try to troubleshoot and that's how we will try to learn of the things. Right. Let me pause the video and once the fourth build is successful or failed, I'll unpause the video and then I'll show you where exactly is the error. So you can see the fourth build has got triggered. Okay, right. You can see the stage by stage execution is also happening. So you can see the fourth build is successful and the deployment happened properly to the Kubernetes cluster. You can see deploy to container and deploy to Kubernetes and it has verified the deployment and post actions are also complete. Now let's see how to access the application which is there in the Kubernetes cluster. So for that, we need to get the load balancer URL. So in order to get the load balancer URL, just go to EC2 service. In the EC2, we have created one load balancer, that is application load balancer. Now, if you ask me how we have created, while creating the node groups, while creating the cluster, I have configured it as a ALB, especially that I have configured in the deployment and the service YML file. So let's go to load balancers. In the load balancers, you will be able to see the application load balancer. So for the load balancer, we will get the DNS. So copy the DNS of load balancer and then you can access the application using the load balancer DNS. So let's verify that. So go to load balancers and let's see if there are any load balancers that are available. And whatever load balancer that is available, that one we have to copy the DNS and we have to check the application. If you don't see the load balancer immediately, it may take some time. So don't rush up. If you don't see the load balancer, don't think that the application has not deployed. So load balancer will take some time, some 2 to 3 minutes of time. So you can see the load balancer DNS. So copy the load balancer DNS, go to a new tab, and in the new tab, paste the DNS. Okay, whatever DNS that you have copied, paste the DNS that you have copied from the load balancer console, that is EC2 console, and paste it, hit enter. You should be able to see the application. Let's verify that. So let me hit enter so that we can access the application. So you can see the application is accessed by using the load balancer DNS. This is one way of getting the load balancer URL. Directly going to the EC2 console, copy the load balancer DNS, and then paste it in a new tab. So let me paste it once again for your clarity. And you can see the application is available. Now, the same load balancer URL, we can also get it directly from the Kubernetes as well. I mean, directly from the cluster as well. So let me show you that also. So if you go to Jenkins server, we have created a web apps namespace, right? kubectl up all -n web apps name, namespace name, which is web apps, kubectl all -n web apps. So let me check that. kubectl all -n kubectl get all, not all, kubectl get all. And you can see the two pods are in the running state. These are the pods basically. So let me show you the details once again. Let me show you it clearly. And you can see these are basically the pods, two pods. Replicas, I have given it as 2, right? And both the pods are in the running state. Okay. And you can see the service also, which is this one. And service type is load balancer. Okay. Service type is load balancer. We can also use ingress as well. But here I'm just focusing on load balancer. And you can see the external IP. There is a lengthy URL, right? So copy this lengthy URL up to here and then paste it in the browser. Okay, you will see the same application. Let me open a new tab. So, and then paste it in the browser. You will see the same application here also. You can see that. So like this, you can access the application which is deployed in the Kubernetes cluster. So whatever is the load balancer URL that you are seeing here, this is the same load balancer URL, which is also available in the EC2 console of load balancer. Same thing, you can see A5071. You can also see the same thing, A5071. And in new tab also, you can see A5071. Here also, you can also cross verify A5071. Both are all, both are same actually. Okay. And you can also see the deployment which got created. And you can see the replica set also. So desired is 2, current is 2, ready is 2. So both are in the running state. So like this, we can deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster. So for this one, you can also add monitoring part as well. So we have done, in the previous videos, we have made the different monitoring parts of the application by using Prometheus and Grafana. So that one, you can try it out when you are practicing, because you can take the examples from my previous videos and you can launch a new instance, which you can call it as monitoring server, and then you can access the application. So in this video, we have seen how to deploy an e-commerce based application by using Docker and also by using the Kubernetes cluster, typically the EKS cluster, which is there in the AWS console. But I'm not going to show you how to monitor the application by using Prometheus and Grafana, because those things I have already discussed in my previous videos. So you can take it as a reference from the previous videos and you can do the monitoring and monitoring part by using Prometheus and Grafana, or you can also use any other monitoring tools like ELK Stack and a couple of others which are available in the market. So for this video, the challenge is do the deployment of the application in the EKS cluster, and then you add your own flavor of monitoring the application. And once you do the monitoring of the application, you can provide me the complete documentation of the monitoring part, and then I will update that notes and I'll give you a shout out in my next video, whoever does this one. And it will be good for you, and also people will be learning from you, so that it will be a mutual way of learning things in the DevOps community. So thank you all once again. But before I close this video, I would like to ask your attention related to the overview about this video and the learning experience that you have got from this video. And please share your learning experience on a LinkedIn post, and you can tag me on the LinkedIn, so that will be helpful for me and for the DevOps community to see the things that are happening across the globe based on different DevOps related projects. I hope you will be doing that one once after you do the deployment of application. So don't forget about the challenge. The challenge for this video is about doing the monitoring of the application. So in the next video, we will see one more project where we will see how to deploy the application in a different way by using different set of tools. So thank you all once again. I hope this video has been helpful to you in understanding how to deploy a Java-based applications. Thank you all. See you once again.